need a bag, it's coming out and flocking to me like I won the lotto. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the crash, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. My enemies. I gotta get it. I gotta get it, the mindset. Hey, back with a vengeance, back on the grinds, back to the business. Hey, God is my witness, they watching my moves like shows they binging. Hey, best keep distance, all of my haters send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no I don't need no assistance, no. Yeah, no playing it safe, I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say, if you ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste, can't be with me if you're not at my pace. You're not at my level, you're not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the crash, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. My enemies. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset.
Oh, it's good to be back live on RaceSpotTV. Over the next 12 weeks, we'll crown a new champion in the iRacing IndyCar Open Series. IndyCar has it all. Ovals, street courses, and road courses. Challenges drivers across so many different types of tracks but ultimately one champion will be crowned. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. It's been a long 3 months as I've watched on from the sidelines as Adam Blocker became a 10-time champion in this series, but I'm joined by my Powerslide Motorsports teammate Andrew Kinsella for this 12-week season. Live timing, as always, powered by our partners at ATVO. You can head to RaceSpot.tv/timing2 to follow along with your favorite team and driver here today and indeed across of the 12 weeks, the 3 months that lie in store for us. Andrew, IndyCar. Like I said, you go from road courses like America's National Park of Speed, where we'll start our 3-month campaign, to a place like Michigan, to a place like Twin Ring Motegi, the road course there. So many different challenges, but ultimately, the driver that can be the most adaptable, the most consistent, always ends up as a champion. We are in for a treat, and we kick things off here tonight.
Absolutely, Arjuna. That's what IndyCar is all about, not just being good at one kind of track, but being good at all types of tracks, and we have got a fabulous schedule. I'm also looking at some of the European tracks like Spa. We're going to Twin Ring Motegi, as you said, for that Formula One style track, but we've also got the classic American tracks like Road America, like Watkins Glen, and of course the ovals like Gateway, Pocono, Iowa. This is going to be a fascinating schedule for the next 12 weeks. And
it's interesting that we go to Twin Ring Motegi, but not the oval that I think some might have been thinking we'd go to. Instead, we go to the road course, track which doesn't get used in the real world anymore, but indeed we'll have a lot of fun there, at least not on a regular basis, Twin Ring Motegi. Let's talk then a little bit about the track here itself, Andrew. It is America's National Park of Speed, but it's deceptively tricky if you ask me. A lot of the corners look like simple 90-degree left and right-handers, but the braking zones are never the same. They're uphill, they're downhill, so many different challenges, and of course, the variety of high-speed and low-speed corners.
This is one of my absolute favorite tracks to drive in the sim, Arjuna, and one of the things that it's really a track that you feel is made for a car like the IndyCar that has so much top speed, so much braking power. And as you mentioned, each corner, while it looks fairly straightforward on the track map, it's not straightforward at all. These braking zones are downhill. The corners can be off camber. There's uphill coming up to a plateau for turn 6 under the Corvette Bridge. Everything is slightly off camber or slightly on camber. It's a real test of a driver's abilities to get around this track consistently, lap after lap, and come out on top here.
And qualifying underway, drivers get 8 minutes and 2 flying laps with the track all to themselves to go fast when the pressure is truly on. We are joined by the King of the Bricks once more on Monday Night Competition as he looks to reclaim the title that he won almost 12 months ago in the 2021 Season 1. Of course, iRacing has 4 of these seasons over the course of a calendar year. 12 weeks in length leaves 4 individual weeks at the end of each season where we have some fun. Week 13 where the new build gets released and indeed the new content gets dropped on us as well. Trainer with a 142.368, currently provisional pole position. Adam Blocker comes to the line. Doesn't look like he's improved, so the qualifying benchmark has been laid down almost half a second quicker as Brandon Trainer from the rest of the field. But it's also great to see that, Andrew, we've got 25 cars in this race alone.
Yeah, absolutely fabulous turnout for the first race of the year and of the season here on RaceSpot, and this is just one of, I believe it was 3 splits that we had going on here today. So that's 75 drivers racing on track right now. This one is obviously the top split with the best drivers here, and it is just great to see the participation here. I think that what we're seeing is the IndyCar did get a little bit of love on the oval side of things in this latest update, but a little bit of a bounce, I think, from that big car launch that we had with the Mercedes W12. A little bit of people checking out open wheel cars that maybe weren't looking at them at the past, and maybe some guys coming over from GT looking at cars like the Mercedes and like this IR18 as well.
And so let's talk about those changes. Like you said, it's been a while since we had a huge step. We had, of course, about 12 months ago, the new tire model that came that brought multiple compounds to the car as well. We got the primary harder tire that will last a little bit longer but goes a little bit quicker, especially at the start of the stint. You then got the red marked alternate tire, softer in compound, a little bit quicker, wears that little bit faster as well. The oval compound, though, has had a little bit of a workup, not just in the short track side, but also in the super speedway configuration.
Yeah, so on the short track, it looked like there was more of a tire compound update that we had going on. There was some. It sounds like there was some work done on the tire side of things from the release notes. But interestingly enough, on the larger super speedways, we had an aero reconfiguration where we're going to have a little bit different aerodynamic properties with the car coming up this season. So the setup should require a little bit of tweaking, a little bit more optimization. And it's going to be interesting to see as the season wears on what kind of effect these changes have on the teams and on the drivers and on the pecking order here in the IndyCar series on iRacing.
And what a place that will start things off here at Road America. Not many tracks have such a long lineage, not just of indeed open wheel racing, but indeed all sorts of racing here in America. Started back on public streets before this venue was constructed just at the late 1940s, and since then hasn't really changed. One of the few tracks in America that is left untouched by time and indeed by the increasing safety standards that we see across of the globe. It is time, though, for the first time this season to go trackside here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, to take a look at our starting grid for round 1 of 12 in the 2022 Season 1 iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. So it is the king of the bricks, Brandon Traynor, that lays down the benchmark. It's a 142.368, but the top 5 has Powerslide Motorsports dominating it. Alexander Van der Sant in second with Adam Blocker, the defending champion, alongside Brian Carey. Robert Malechka III will be lining up in 5th with Riley Thompson, the Total Downforce Racing driver, completing the top 6 positions. Adam Crane, Andrew Marquez, 7th and 8th spots with Jesper Orman and Mitchell Welker rounding out the top 10. David Porcelli, number 3 rated driver in the field, lines up back in 11th alongside the Australian and New Zealand driver Lewis Tollin. Adriano Pinheiro lines up alongside fellow Brazilian Joao de Gregorio, Rashad Craig and Adam Frazier, row number 8, while Andrew Wood, all the way back in 17th, he'll be alongside Christian Macarelli. Joe Branch joins us on a Monday night for the first time in a while. He'll be alongside Team Race versus Matt Houston, Fabio Cimbala and Jack Mara. The final 2 cars set qualifying lap times, although Jack Mara not putting in a lap time necessarily representative of the pace that we know he's got. AJ Musselman will be alongside Rob Unglenix at the tail end of the field, with Daniel Manzano at the very end of it. So just about ready to get underway, and Andrew, it is a relatively lengthy race, 32 laps in length, but that does mean long fuel window, I should say, and the potential for many different tire strategies to come into effect.
Yeah, it should be fascinating to see exactly what these drivers do with it, especially with that alternate tire. This is one of the tracks where that alternate tire does struggle just a little bit, Arjuna. It does wear just that little bit higher, and because of the long straightaways and those acute corners, the tires do really heat up here, and it really does put on a little bit of a shine on those tires, and you start to slip and slide around. So I think that you're going to see a lot of black tire strategy, but it might just be that someone who can properly take advantage of the red tire here, that could be the difference between winning and losing here as we start off our warm-up lap behind the pace car.
All 10 cars in the top 10. Pretty redundant statement, yes, I know, but all 10 of them starting on that red mark tire. David Porcelli, the first car to have elected for something slightly different. He'll be on the black, as well as Adriano Pinheiro, Joao de Gregorio, Rashad Craig, Christian Macarelli, Matt Houston, Fabio Cimbala, and Daniel Manzano as well. So out of the 25 cars, just under 10 of them or so will be lining up on that slightly harder tire compound. What a way to kick things off as well. I'm really looking forward to this. You mentioned Spa, you mentioned Motegi, but of course we've got some really interesting short ovals that we'll be going to as well. Both Iowa and Richmond in the same season, as well as Gateway. That's going to be incredible.
Yeah, the action is going to come fast and heavy at those tracks, especially at a place like Iowa and Richmond where the lap is so short and the speeds are so high. It really is a treat to watch these cars go around a track like that. Especially, I think my personal favorite out of all of the short tracks here is Iowa, just because of that little bit of progressive banking. It opens up the second and third lanes a little bit, and you can get some really close action. So really looking forward to some of these short tracks here.
And of course, next week we'll go super speedway or speedway racing, Michigan International Speedway, high speed, high banking there. Some interesting ovals as well to think about. We'll finish off at the Tricky Triangle once more, just like we did about 3 months ago, the last time we covered IndyCar Open competition here on RaceSpotTV. But Homestead, Miami, Andrew, that's going to be a rather fascinating one, 133 laps in the Sunshine State.
Yeah, absolutely. Homestead it's a unique track, but I wish it was one of those tracks that there was more of in the United States. It is another one of those tracks that it just invites multi-groove side-by-side racing. And I often wish, instead of we had places like Chicagoland and Kansas being that cookie cutter, if they had taken Homestead and put that track in a number of different areas, I feel like some of these tracks would have been a little bit more successful through the 2000s, because that place, every time we go there, it seems to produce great racing.
And in terms of this track and where you can pass, basically any corner is a passing opportunity if you really want to be aggressive. But the reality is, Andrew, if you're not thinking too far ahead, if you battle at some of these inopportune spots, you just start losing time compared to the rest of your rivals.
Yeah, it's really a case of picking your battles wisely here. Canada Corner, which we're coming up to on screen here, is one of those opportunities where it's a prime passing opportunity. But if you pass here, you have two opportunities to be repassed, which is the front straightaway and the straightaway between turns 3 and 5. So oftentimes it can sometimes be better to pick your battles and make sure that you have enough time to get a little bit of a gap, because the draft and the push to pass here is very, very important, Arjuna.
It's not just push to pass. I sometimes repeat myself just a little bit too much, but it's push to defend as well. 10 usages of that additional 60 or 70 horsepower to push you down these very long straights. It can be crucial in defending, and Brandon Traino, the Apex Racing team driver, is going to have to defend. He's got 4 Powerslide Motorsports drivers lined up behind him and ready to rip away the race lead. But we are ready to go for 2022 and Season 1 competition in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. It's green flag out at Road America. Traino scampers off to the lead. Adam Blocker already gets past Alexander Van der Sande as they're 3 wide. Jesper Orman, the meat in the sandwich, as they dive their way in towards turn number 1. Be careful not to run out just a little bit wide, as a couple of the cars have done there, but safely through turn number 1, down the hill, onto the back straight we go.
Excellent start from all of these drivers. There was a couple of hair-raising moments as a few cars just went a little bit wide out of the exit of turn 1, but we are safely through 1 and safely through 3. Big sigh of relief from all these drivers, but we do have a big braking zone coming up here at the end of this long straight.
Down the hill, Riley Thompson trying to go the long way around, still building up the temperature and pressure into those tires. A little bit of danger behind. Oh, and it's not just danger, it's absolute carnage still going on. Cars scrambling for the hills. That's for about 10th on back. I think about 7 cars have been mixed up in that one. We'll get the replay in just a couple of moments' time. But you mentioned that was a heavy braking zone, Andrew. I wonder if that's your fault with the commentator's curse.
It might be a little bit of my fault, but as we were watching that, Brian Carey and there was a little bit of contact with Riley Thompson going through turn 8 just after the hurry downs, but the cars are starting to just get a little bit strung out here. I think that there's a little bit of a gap because of that big accident that happened. We do see a little bit of a gap coming off. A couple of cars are circulating around with damage, it looks like.
Pinheiro
has missing front wing. And a couple of others might have some minor damage as well. But overall, apart from the one incident, really, it was a very good lap from these drivers at what can be a very tempting and very tricky place to get through a first lap.
I mean, we saw that both in the ISOWC and in Lionheart as Pinheiro straight down to pit lane. Brandon Traino being chased down. 6/10 between him and the defending champion Adam Blocker as they work their way through turn 1. Alexander Van der Sande has dropped about 1.5 seconds back with Robert Malechka III up into 4th. Brian Carey has been passed by his new teammate to complete the top 5. Adam Crane, Riley Thompson, Jesper Orman, Lewis Tolan, and Rashad Craig, the rest of the top 10. Gap between 8th and 9th is now up to 3 seconds, so that's where the gap is really starting to build on up, and we've seen Rashad Craig be feisty and aggressive in recent memory. I have no doubt we'll see that again as, well, Brian Carey, wonderful move down the inside of Robert Malechka.
Yeah, nice move from the Canadian there. He really sort of sent it down there Mleczka, I think, gave him a little bit of room. I think Mleczka, this being his first race here with Powerslide Motorsports, wants to put in a good impression here and keep his nose clean, I think, through these first little bit. I think Brian might be just a little bit faster than Robert is just right now. It looks like he's just a little bit more comfortable with what the car is doing. He's even starting to pull away just a little bit over Mleczka and try and maybe get off and after Alex Van de Sande, his other teammate, up in third place there.
It is good to see that silly season is going on. I guess for the IndyCar, a long way to go till the month of May, the iRacing Indy 500, where so much effort, so much preparation goes into that one race. We'll see how it works out. Andrew Wood down the inside of Canada corner, getting past Rashad Craig for 10th position. Let's turn our attention, though, back to the start of this race and the almighty chaos that did emerge. We are still watching live pictures here. We'll try and get to the replay as soon as we can because, well, it was helter-skelter. I think that's the way that we can put it.
Yeah, just a little bit of chaos there, Arjuna. It looked like it started off, as I said, probably right around that 8th, 9th, 10th place position into turn 5. But right at the start, we saw a few people going 3 wide. It was Jesper Orman in the middle of it with Andrew Marquez. And by the exit of turn 1 here, Marquez just gets forced a little bit wide. Car behind him puts a couple wheels off, but it was Marquez who really lost out here in that early exchange and put him probably back about 10 positions from where he was. And unfortunately, it also put him in a precarious position for this coming up here down into turn 5. It did look like it was Mitchell Welker who might have made just a small mistake there, under brakes, gets into the back. I'm not sure who he got into the back of there, but it did look like he just got a little bit too deep on the brakes and unfortunately tagged the back of that car there.
I believe that was Pinheiro. Yes, it was. Pinheiro actually gets away with it when quite lightly when you consider the rest of the carnage that emerged behind him. While De Gregorio is the one that kind of got sandwiched, nowhere to go, and then he then gets clipped from behind. Really big impact there down the hill. Such a tricky braking zone with the cold tires. One more look at it. Let's see what happened here.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It was Pinheiro who got pitched into the back of De Gregorio, and De Gregorio then just spins out. He had absolutely nothing to do with that, and you see about 3 or 4 drivers going far to the outside, even through the sand trap to try and avoid that. So definitely a little bit of chaos there through that that 5th corner there on the first lap, but it was definitely set off there by the contact between Welker and Pinheiro.
And it's a 32-lap race. Fuel window, we're already getting towards, I would say, the halfway mark for this first stint of the race, because you mentioned it earlier, it's quite likely, given where the track conditions are today, you can see it's relatively cool in the air, but 37 degrees on the track itself with the higher speed corners. You want to get off these red mark tires as soon as you can and switch on over to the black mark primary tire as Riley Thompson's defending from Adam Crane.
And nice defense there from Riley Thompson. I do think, Arjuna, that it might be... So one of the things that we have to keep in mind with these tires is that they aren't just affected by the track temperature, they're also affected by the fuel loads that these drivers are carrying. So one of the things that I heard talked about in the Powerslide Discord was just exactly how they wanted to treat the fuel strategy in this race, because it's not quite a one-stop race. It's actually going to be a 2-stop race. So that'll let these drivers take a little bit less fuel potentially, and that can help you save those red tires, because not only do you not have to go quite as far on them, but you also don't have quite as much weight causing the tires to go off as quickly. So that is the one thing that could make these red tires viable here, is that potentially reduced pit window with that 2-stop strategy, making these red tires a valid option here.
We'll see how it works. Riley Thompson really feeling the pressure, used the push to pass out of the carousel and in through the kink, managed to pull away slightly, but then squirrely through Canada corner, squirrely through Bill Mitchell bend, and not looking comfortable at all through the final corner as across the line being chased down by the VRS Satellite Racing driver on board with Adam Crane, who's now fallen back just a hair, but conserving his push to pass. Riley Thompson has already used 3 of the 10 activations that he'll get throughout the course of these 32 laps. Really do need to be careful in how aggressive you are in rationing them out over the course of this race. Does look as though for the time being at least, Adam Crane just a little bit too far behind. Alexander Van der Sat now coming under fire, not just by one, but two of his Power Slide teammates. He's now 5 seconds adrift from Adam Blocker. The top two really just stretching their legs and running away from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, it's been a clinic up front between Trano and Blocker, but the action is right back here, as you can see. 3 through 5, very, very close. Van der Sant's pushing so hard, but he's making these small mistakes, and it's allowing Brian Carey to just get closer and closer, corner by corner, lap by lap, and he's really starting to pressure Alexander Van der Sant. And I think Alex is starting to feel that pressure just a little bit. I'm not sure with maybe his tires might not be surviving quite as well as his Canadian teammate behind him, but it's been really fun to watch this trio push as hard as they can, with Van der Sant trying to stay ahead and the other two trying to catch up with everything that they can.
And one thing that I'm really noticing here is just how sideways that a lot of these drivers are. I think back to even 18 months ago, Andrew, with the older tire model, you couldn't do that. If you heated up your tires by sliding around just a little bit too much, you paid the price, not just for a couple of corners, but the rest of the stint itself. This new tire model has really changed the game in how you set up this car, how you drive this car as well, has made it so much more fun and more realistic at the same time.
Absolutely. iRacing has made leaps and bounds in their tire model. Even the last update that these road course cars had, which was, I believe, at the beginning of Season 4, we got a little bit of an update. It made it just so much easier to have that sideways action, and we're really seeing that paying off in the types of action that we can see on the track. In the close battles, like we were seeing with Van der Sant and Carey, but also like we've been seeing with Thompson and Malechka, because the other thing with being able to go sideways is, yes, you can control the car more, but it also wears the tires more, so it can become an accordion effect for these drivers now. They're not just driving robotically trying to hit the same thing. When they're sliding it, they can still go fast, but they're also wearing the tires, and it'll cause them issues further down. So it's really added to the realism, and hats off to iRacing for all the improvements that they've made over these last few updates.
So many factors that you now have to work into your driving and how you want to structure not just each stint, but the entire race as well. We mentioned the tire and fuel loads, the way they combine with one another. We'll see exactly how that's going to play out. Let's see. It didn't work last time, but let's see if we can dial up some replays once more. It doesn't look as though like that's working just yet. I can tell you that Robin Glennix had a moment off the track, as did Matt Houston. So Matt Houston now one of our 4 retirees. That includes Mitchell Welker, Adam Frazier, and Joao Di Gregorio. Man, you can tell it's been a while since we covered IndyCar because I'm really struggling with some of these names, but Craig has gotten past Wood. His next target will be Lewis Tolan, who runs a little bit wide through the final corner as up the hill under the NTT bridge they go. Rashad Craig and Tolan on the button. It should be Craig if he can get this momentum, carry that forward to get the pass done. But you can almost see him stalling out there. I wonder if the downforce levels are coming into play.
Yeah, that's one of the treats of having an open setup for him like we do here in this series, is that the different drivers and different teams will have different settings for their car. And I do think that one of the things that you're seeing here is that Lewis Tolan is probably on a much lower downforce setup, whereas Rashad Craig is on a higher downforce setup, and it's allowing Craig to follow really, really close. It's allowing him to try and make these moves, but it's also very difficult for Craig to actually get the draft by him into these corners. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not that low downforce setup is going to end up being better, or whether that higher downforce setup, because as these tires wear out, the high downforce should come into play and maybe make it a little bit better for him in the long run. But in the short run, he's really struggling to get around Tolan.
Does look as though Matt Houston has rolled himself off a pit road, albeit 4 laps down from the rest of the field, so he's got a long road ahead of him, but he'll try and recover whatever he can. Not just Rashad Craig applying the pressure to Lewis Tolan, it's Christian Macarelli applying the pressure to the cars in front of him. We'll see exactly how things are going to work out here. Can hear Macarelli stalling out in towards Canada corner, nothing doing there. 4 cars now separated by just about 1 second between the 4 of them as they work themselves through Bill Mitchell. Ben Tolan really getting wide, a little bit squirrely over the bumps that are ready to escort you into the grass if you're not careful. Looks like pit window is already open because Adam Blocker, Alexander Van der Sant, both have come down to pit road this last time around. Only 7 laps have been completed. Brandon Traynor now well and truly in control. Macrelli to the inside of Andrew Wood. Gets the place there as they head in towards turn 1. Wood slots back into line, but with the higher downforce configuration, it is still Rashad Craig unable to get the move done. Adam Blocker rolls himself off a pit road, emerges in some clean air, looking good there. His teammate Van der Sant will also find some clean air, albeit with Marquez and Glenix between him and the defending series champion, as builds up the temperature and pressure. Both of the power slide duo, Blocker and Van der Sant, have switched to the Black Mark primary tire, and you can denote that on the left-hand side of your screen. If I can find the right button, there it is. You can see now it's the top 7 that are all on the alternate tire. Craig Macrelli yet to pit. The first cars on the Black Mark primary tires. Adam Blocker now with a pit stop cycle of 39 seconds is already in fact cycled to a potential place where he'll emerge in front of Brandon Traynor. Early pit stop there for Blocker and Van der Sant, Andrew.
Yeah, I think this is what we were talking about earlier with that ability to maybe do some interesting things with the tires here. So I think that we're going to see both Blocker and Van der Sant and Traynor as well. They're going to be going onto these black tires now because they went short here on this first stint. They used the tires to basically try and maintain their positions in that first stint. And now what you're seeing is that these tires won't last much longer than 8 or 9 laps on the red mark tires. So from here on out, it looks like we're going to be blacks for most of this field till the finish.
It would be, what, about 16 laps a stint for... Oh, no, not 16 laps, sorry. I can't even do math, it turns out. It would be 11 laps a stint. There we go.
Yeah, it should be 11 or 12 laps a stint here for the rest of this race. And we've seen Blocker's already had that first stop and completed it, and he's back out behind Traynor, so he wasn't able to do anything with that first lap. But it'll be interesting to see, because Blocker does have the fresher tires and the hotter tires here, whether just how far Traynor will fall back into Blocker's clutches, because Blocker was just a little bit outside the drafting range going into that pit stop window. So it'll be interesting to see whether getting those tires sort of up to temperature a little bit quicker will allow Adam to really close in and have a little bit of an advantage here.
And to be a bit more specific with the differences between these two tires, the crossover point, as we like to call it, between these two tires was about lap 4. So when you get 4 laps completed on a red mark tire, that's when it starts to become slower than the black tire. And from there, in a 12-lap stint, then you've got the rest of the stint, so 2/3 of the stint in effect to deal with the loss of time. So explains why we've seen the tires being shod so quickly. Brandon Traynor will have some traffic in front of him. Fabio Cimbala will be about 1.4 seconds up the road. Maybe he'll come down onto pit road this time around. Otherwise, there may be a factor for the race lead. Robert Malechka III onto pit road. Cycles Riley Thompson, Jesper Orman to first and second out on track. As through the final corner, here come your net race leaders, and those cars not coming down to pit road. So it's going to be interesting how Blocker and Traynor manage to deal with the cars in front of them.
Yeah, catching and dealing with these lap cars are going to be very, very important for both of these drivers. One of the things that I do like about where Traynor is it's often easier as the faster car to deal with it being the first car in line. When you get to the second car in line, you almost get a double downforce effect from the draft basically multiplying against you. So it does make it a little bit trickier for the likes of Adam Blocker here. But all of these drivers who are on this quicker stop, this quick first stint, they're going to be dealing with traffic for a large portion of this race, because don't forget, Arjuna, not just this stint, but also the next stint, they are also going to have to stop sooner. So basically, for a lot of these drivers, what they're seeing now, they're going to see this again in maybe 11 laps time.
Brian Carey is now about 2 and a bit seconds in front of Robert Malechka. He's now only about 1.6 back from Alexander Van der Sant. That's the battle for the net final step on the podium. Coming out of the carousel, Brandon Traynor well and truly right on the tail of the number 10 cars. Through the kink they come. Will it be Traynor looking to the inside this time around, because that gap is coming down? Blocker now half a second back from him. Traynor feels the pressure to the inside. He looks, squeezes Ciambella out of the way. Now Blocker is coming up into Bill Mitchell Bend. Not a passing opportunity you'd expect on this pitch straight for Blocker to get on pass as well.
Yeah, and it's so tough when you see your competitor make a move like that, and it's so tough being sort of trapped behind that car. And I know that Ciambella will not make it necessarily easy for a Blocker as he comes down the pit straight. Ciambella does have the draft behind Brandon Traynor, so side by side into turn one. Ciambella not giving an inch through there, and they are still side by side. Blocker slots back into turn two, and that was not what Blocker needed in his fight with Brandon Traynor for the lead of this race. As it looks like we had a car in the grass there, Arjuna.
Yep, that was Daniel Manzano just sliding wide at turn 3. Ciambella used the push to pass on that pit straightaway. Really did not help the fight and the charge from Adam Blocker, but down the inside into turn number 5. Adam Blocker gets on pass, but now back to 1.4 seconds back. I can only assume the language that Adam Blocker was probably spewing down that pit straight.
Yeah, I imagine that he was not a fan of what was going on there, but fair play from Ciambella. He's fighting his own battle in his own race, and he's under no obligation as a car on the same lap as the leader to make anybody's overtaking of him easy there. And he did nothing wrong, to be quite honest, Arjuna. It's just he was trying everything he could to get as much time as he could, and unfortunately, in doing so, he's cost Adam Blocker just a little bit of time as well.
Absolutely, but everyone's running their own race, and that's the case for Ciambella, who's actually up a whole number of positions. Only a couple of cars still yet to pit. That includes Riley Thompson, Jesper Orman. As I say, that Jesper Orman pits along with Christian Macarelli. So Ciambella, Manzano, the other couple of cars are yet to dive down onto the lane for the first time. 11 laps in the books. Interesting to see that Riley Thompson is elected to run his car basically dry. We'll see how that cycles him further back when all things are said and done in this first cycle of the race.
It's been fascinating to see all the varying pit strategies here, and despite that, we've come out to a place, because of the what happened with Blocker and Ciambella on that last lap, we've come out to a place where basically it's maintained status quo. It looked for a little bit that Adam Blocker might have been a little bit closer to Brandon Traynor, but now that gap is sort of stabilized. So right now it's sort of all back to where we were before the pit stop cycle happened, but in the intervening few laps, there was definitely a little bit of chaos going on out there.
Lap time for Brandon Traynor last time around was a 1:45.279. In comparison to that, and in stark contrast, it was a 1:47.162 for Riley Thompson. So 2 full seconds slower. Gives you the indication of just how painful it is at the end of the stint on the red mark alternate tire. Christian Macarelli now trying to get back past Lewis Tolan, who slung it down the inside, down the hill into turn number 5 as they hurry their way down through the hurry downs. About 2.3 back from Jesper Orman, who is, after coming down onto pit road, elected to stay on the red mark tire. Remember, Andrew, as well, there's no requirement for the drivers to use both compounds like there is in the real world. So basically, you pick what you feel most comfortable with.
Absolutely, but I think in this case, you're seeing a lot of people picking both compounds because there are very different circumstances where they are both fast. And so we saw, again, those drivers, especially in the top 10, early to go with that red tire. And as you mentioned, it does fall off quickly, but it is much, much quicker in those first 4 or 5 laps compared to the black tire, and overall on a stint up until about lap 8 or 9. So there's all sorts of different strategies that can go on with these tires. So even though there's no requirement that they use it, we're seeing that almost everyone has used both tires at this point.
Here comes Riley Thompson. Andrew Wood will power around the outside, already up to temperature and pressure with that momentum on his side. Thompson has stayed on that red mark alternate tires, emerges in front though of Jesper Orman, so he's down in 12th position. we'll see how the strategy cycles out for the total downforce number 13 car. Remember, we started with 25 out on track. We lost 3 on those first couple. Joao de Gregorio, Mitchell Welker, Adam Fraser, the 3 that retired. Matt Houston is 4 laps down, but still out there and pounding around on the track itself. We'll see exactly how many end up finishing this race. Very, very different to races we've seen in the past. I think back to some of the chaos that we saw, for example, at Phillip Island, where we spent probably about half the race under replay, and then the rest of the race laughing about all the incidents that we had seen under replay itself. Other interesting races we have seen for sure. But gaps have started to build up between the various movers and shakers. Brian Carey 8/10 off the back of Alexander Van der Sande. And this 3-car train, really the closest that we have between any of the competitors. Thompson half a second back from Wood, with Jesper Orman in close pursuit. All 3 of these drivers have really burned through their push to passes. Finally, I should say, Rashad Craig is down onto pit lane. He'll be followed in by Fabio Ciambella as well as Daniel Manzano. So all of the cars will pit, but you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, Andrew, that we're not even halfway through this race, and some of the cars have already used more than half their push to passes. Here comes Thompson. Wood makes a mistake on the button. Thompson to 11th.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks where it's really, really tempting to use the push to pass, especially early on. But at the same time, if you're looking to make up some time at the end of the race, you really want to have some push to pass left over. And as you mentioned, push to defend as well. So it can be a bit of a poison pill, especially if you look at the likes of Treno, who's already used 5 of his push to passes. But the power slide drivers, interestingly enough, Blocker, Van der Sande, Carey, they all have 9 remaining, Malechka with 7. So if there is one team that is sort of taking the strategy of just holding off and seeing, oh no!
That's deep under the brakes from Jesper Orman right into the back of Andrew Wood, who loses it through turn 5. And watch the rejoin there, Andrew. Jack Mara will be alongside as they head under the Corvette bridge, but that was a moment, both the rejoin and the incident itself. Let's go and see what happened there. Doesn't look as though, at least for visually, there was too much damage to Andrew Wood's car.
Yeah, it was. So what happened here, Arjuna, is that this is the difference between new tires and old tires with Andrew Wood and Jesper Orman. So Orman is on the red sidewall tires, so is Wood, but Wood was 3-lap older tires. So he just had to hit the brakes a little bit earlier because his tires just simply didn't have grip. Orman, who had been closing in throughout that entire straight, just brakes a little bit too late, gets into the back of Wood. Fortunately, Wood is able to keep it off the inside barrier there, is able to spin around. It's very tight rejoin there with Mara, but ultimately it looks like no harm, no foul. Unfortunately, Wood did lose a number of positions there, and that second stint tire, very good avoiding action from Jack Mara there, as we're seeing on screen. But I think that what we're seeing with Wood is that by pitting early, but also going to those red tires, he's in a really... Oh, no!
That's Fabio Ciambella, I do believe, who has lost not just his front wing, but the left front wheel hanging off of his car. Must have been a huge impact coming through. Bill Mitchell Ben for him. We'll go ahead and take a look at what happened here. So it starts with the exit of Canada Corner. Looks okay there. But through the left-hand sweeper where you're basically flat out... Well, rear end comes around, not much he could do there, because once it steps out from you, that car is basically lost.
Yeah, Bill Mitchell bend is slightly off camber. It goes off to the outside of the track, and it really loads that right rear tire. So if you have just a little bit of a balance problem there, especially as the tires start to wear out just a little bit, it's really, really easy to lose the back end just like that. And when you do, it's very hard to recover because the inside wall is right there on the inside of the track. You have almost no room to gather it back up again. So unfortunate incident there, and it looks like his day might just be done.
He lost the car really early as well. Didn't even look like it was necessarily on the curb like sometimes we see. You put a foot off into the grass, and that difference in traction between the tarmac and the grass will pitch the car around. Didn't even look like that was the case this time. Just looked as though he didn't have ultimate comfort, ultimate stability, I should say. Like I said, live broadcasting, words are tough. Ultimate stability in that car. Up the hill, here's the battle then for 8th on back. Jesper Orman coming under fire from Rashad Craig. Once again, just doesn't look as though Craig's got the top end speed to pull alongside and get the move done.
Yeah, Rashad, he's got a setup that definitely is higher on the downforce than some of the drivers around him, and it's preventing him from really being able to make up and take advantage of his tires here.
Looking rearwards then from the Three Crowns Racing machine, the blue and gold. Craig not on the button. He's only got 4 usages left with not even half the race left to go, so he does need to be careful about how, with the top end deficiency that he's got, how he wants to take advantage of it, but really feels comfortable through the slower speed corners. Was right on the gearbox of Jesper Orman coming in under the bridge. Pulls back at least for now, down through the hurry downs. 4-car fight for 8th. Meanwhile, up the road, Malechka the 3rd on the button, trying to close the gap to Brian Carey. He's 1.8 seconds back as Carey's now broken into the 1 second barrier as he chases down the final step of the podium. As here comes Craig. See just how much more comfortable he is. How do you play this if you're Craig then, knowing you've got this setup deficiency, Andrew? I mean, hypothetically, you can make a wing change during the pit stop, but I think that's somewhat unlikely here on a road course.
Yeah, I don't know that there's very much that Craig can do here, except for wait for the tires to go off, because he is on the black tires instead of the red tires of Orman in front of him. So I do think that as this stint goes on, Orman is just going to have too much of a problem with the rear end of his car especially, and it's going to allow Craig by him sooner or later. The thing for Craig here is just to be patient and not to make a mistake of his own. And just allow this to come to him, because eventually he will be able to overtake Orman. It's a question of time in terms of the stint, and I think that the place that he needs to look at is down either into turn 5 or just into turn 8, just after the hurry downs. Those are the places where if Orman makes a mistake out of Corvette or through turn 7, that's where Rashad Craig can really take advantage and use that downforce advantage through the carousel to get himself safe for the next straightaway.
And one thing that I find interesting is knowing that Craig is running this higher downforce configuration, the fact that he went long in the first stint of the race is somewhat surprising, as Jesper Orman gets very sideways over the crest of turn 7, just about holds on to his car. But with higher downforce, Andrew, it usually means more time on the power, more time at full power as well, which means you burn fuel. So for Rashad Craig to have been able to go so long, clearly he knows he's at that disadvantage with the downforce. He's also saving fuel into all of these braking zones.
Well, and keep in mind that Rashad Craig has been basically in the wheel tracks of cars throughout this entire race, so he's also getting a little bit of fuel advantage with the draft as well. Being this close to the cars in front, he's able to save a lot of fuel down these straights. I would wager probably even 3 to 4 tenths of a gallon or of a mile per gallon a lap. So it is definitely not a insignificant saving being in the draft like he is right now.
Left-hand side of the screen once more, you can see the tire compounds. All of the top 5 are on that primary black side mark tire. The alternates for Crane, Thompson, Orman. And in this 4-way fight, it's 2 on the reds, 2 on the blacks. Running through the top 11 as into turn 1 once more. Orman holds on. Macarelli getting a little bit left from the pack as he's now 1 second behind Lewis Tolan, who first time we've seen Lewis on a Monday night. And this is the thing with iRating, Andrew, is the fact that it's a pretty good indicator of speed. It's not always the best indicator of speed. We'll get to that later, though. Here comes Rashad Craig down the inside on the button. Finally gets the pass done on track. He's now up to 8th position.
Very nicely done from Rashad Craig, and this is exactly the point in the track that he needed to make this move happen, because now he's got a clear run through this turn 6, turn 7, turn 8 complex, and he is going to stretch it out from Jesper Orman, because Jesper Orman just doesn't have the downforce to stick with him, and he doesn't have the tires either. So this is really going to be a good thing for Craig. He should be well clear of Orman by the time they get onto the back straightaway, and he should be well clear and have completed this pass very nicely.
Already now 1 second. We'll see how it comes down as through the kink. Flat out they go. Of course, we've seen some huge crashes there in recent memory. Who can forget what happened to Catherine Legg as she worked herself. No, excuse me, not Catherine.
No, it was Catherine Legg.
Oh, it was Catherine Legg. I'm just getting myself all sorts of confused today. I said that Road America was built in the late 1940s. It wasn't even started construction until the mid-1950s. All sorts of confusion here. Gap is held steady between Craig and Orman at about 1 second plus, so really has been able to stretch his legs. And going back to what I was saying just a moment ago, is here comes Christian Maccarelli trying to get the move done on Lewis Tolan, who will defend to the inside, but not aggressive enough. Door was left open, and down the inside, Maccarelli tries to make it stick. A little bit squirrely for both of those cars coming through the apex of the corner. Maccarelli has it for now. Tolan might be able to get the run. Almost more contact between the two of them as Maccarelli try to set up the exit out of turn 3. He's got the position, at least for now.
Really nice racing from those two, but it is not done. Tolan wants this back. Maccarelli defends to the inside. Tolan on the outside, down into turn 5 here. Tolan on the brakes with the softer tires. Oh no, a little bit of contact there.
It was almost inevitable, given the way that these two had been racing each other, just how close, but until then, it was good, hard, respectful racing. It ends in tears for Lewis Tolan. Watch here, the run out of turn 3. Just jinking back and forth, trying to stay in the draft, trying to find the right opportunity to make things happen. Maccarelli just didn't have the momentum, sweeps back down to the right-hand side of the track to maximize the corner. I've made that similar sort of mistake myself in the past because of the way the track goes. Tolan, unfortunately, comes off worse in that situation. And Tolan is the 25th car, Andrew, to finally complete the point. iRating is a pretty good indicator of pace. It helps to match make, it helps to set the grid, split the grid across of the 10,000 plus active members that we've got on any given day here in iRacing. But it's not the be-all and end-all, and we're seeing that from someone, not just in Lewis Tolan's potential, but in someone like Robert Malechka's potential as well, the 24 car running up there in the top 5.
Absolutely. When we have a field as big as this in 3 splits, if you make it into top split, you're fast enough to be here. You have a high enough iRating to be here. This is an extremely talented field from top to bottom, whether it's the first-ranked driver or the last-ranked driver. As we watch a little bit of a replay, Jesper Orman had a little bit of an adventure through there, gives up 1 spot. Those red tires, it just looked like he just got in there too hot. The tires were never going to allow him to get through that corner well, off onto the exit there, but safely rejoined and probably only lost about 2 seconds there. So overall, not too bad from Orman. But yeah, as I was saying, when you get into a field like this, on a split like this, if you're in this field, you know that you're a talented driver and you deserve to be here. And we're seeing, as you said, Tolan, Orman, Malechka, all of them are really good drivers in their own right, despite being ranked closer to the bottom of this particular field. Oh no!
And Tolan, well, it goes from bad to worse for him. Jack Mara trying to set the move up through the hurry downs, and they've ended up on top of one another with cars oncoming as well. There goes Andrew Marquez, just about squeezes through. My word. Dramatic to say the very least, and it's going to be frustration, disappointment, heartbreak for Lewis Tolan as pit road is busy. Riley Thompson and Adam Crane are coming through right now, having already come down onto pit lane. Alexander Van der Sant has come down for his final pit stop in this race. Let's take one more look at it and see exactly what happened here. So potentially some damage for Lewis Tolan, who is looking a little bit slow coming to the braking zone in turn number 5. Jack Mara sees the potential to make the pass happen. Tolan gets a little bit wide through turn 7, through the hurry downs, then compromises his line all the way through. And, well, I don't think Mara necessarily knew what was going on there.
Yeah, I think it was just a case of wires getting crossed there, Arjuna. It looked like Tolan might even have been trying to let Mara by there, and Mara just didn't get the memo, didn't realize that Tolan was about to lift out, and when he did, it was just 2 cars not understanding what the other one was doing, not unlike what Max Verstappen did to Lewis Hamilton in the real world a couple of weeks ago, but I think there was probably a little bit more brake application for Max there, but yeah, it was just an unfortunate incident. It didn't need to happen, but it's one of those things that can happen, especially when you're doing something a little bit unpredictable like what Lewis Tolan was doing.
let's see what happens here. And I apologize to Jack Mara. I put the blame on him when don't necessarily think that was all his fault. Andrew Woods had a moment. I thought it was going to be that as he cut very aggressively to the inside of turn 5, but looks okay for now. It wasn't a small moment either. It was rather considerable in length. Looks okay through the very small kink that we've got there down the hill. And that's where it is. Under the brakes, just maybe a little bit too much rear brake bias. Does a good job to not just keep it out of the tire barrier, but to really minimize the amount of time that he lost there. His final pit cycle is well and truly underway. All 4 of the race leaders are down to pit lane this time around.
Right on schedule for all of these leaders, but this is going to be telling. Will Adam Blocker, he was about a 1.5 seconds behind Trano coming into this cycle. Will Blocker be able to get back further? It doesn't look like it. It looks like Trano still has a decent lead here, Arjuna.
It does look as though, at least for the time being, Adam Blocker has it all to do. 1.2 back, but as Brandon Trano gets on the button, he is down to just 3 usages left. 3 60 to 70 horsepower spurts of power to push him down the straight. With Adam Blocker having still 8 left in this race, that is going to be a big advantage for the defending champion.
Absolutely. That is going to be, I think, pivotal in this race between Trano and Blocker. Trano having to use all of those push-to-passes to stay in front of Blocker so far. We know, Arjuna, from our own experience, that Blocker loves to put down the fast laps, especially at the end of a race, looking for the fastest lap of the race. And he is not shy about using multiple push-to-passes in a single lap. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is just sort of continuing to conserve, continuing to keep Trano in his sights, knowing that he now probably has a significant advantage here.
Oh, another incident out on track. What's happened here for the Muscle Man? Let's go ahead and dial up the RaceSpotTV replay machine. Coming through the carousel, looks okay there. Is it going to be a moment through the kink, or is it going to be in through Canada corner? No! Oh, that is huge. That is a big incident at almost 170 miles an hour for the number 19 car. Let's see if we can dial up an onboard there, because that will give us the best view as to what happened here, Andrew.
It just looks like he has just a little bit too much front downforce, too much bite through the car. And the tricky part with that is on a flat out corner like the kink, you're not expecting to have to lift out of it. So when you lose the back end, it's really, really hard to gather it back up. And you saw the car just sort of spears across the track into the inside wall, and that's day done for the Muscle Man there.
It will be day done. It's a long list of retirements now. That does include the likes of the Muscle Man, Lewis Tolan, Fabio Ciambella, Joao de Gregorio, Mitchell Welker, and Adam Fraser. So 25 starters whittled down to just 19 out there on track. 10 laps to go at this over 4-mile facility. They are long, long laps. And the final pit cycle has drawn to a close for your leaders. Adriano Pinheiro still has 10 push-to-passes left to use, by the way. That's pretty incredible. But Rashad Craig, Christian Macarelli, Jesper Orman, we'd still expect all 3 of them to come down to pit road at some point in time. The question is for Rashad Craig, who went upwards of 13 laps in stint number 1, how long will he extend stint 2 here today? On the left-hand side of the screen, by the way, you see a highlight on the right side of the timing tower. Green means cars are going faster than their average lap time. Red means they're going slower, and you can see Adam Blocker is well and truly green. That gap has now come down to just about 1 second between first and second positions.
He's carved out about half a second from Brandon Trano in this lap alone, and you can see he's on the push-to-pass. So is Trano. They both know that these laps are going to be very important. These are the laps before the tires really start to go off. So if Blocker can really get into the draft under Trano's wing, we could see a move here in the next couple of laps here, Arjuna.
Trano is down to 2 push-to-passes left. Blocker is down to 6, so he's already burnt through a couple in the last couple of laps. Building up the speed, building up the pressure as well. Jesper Orman dives to pit road for his final stop in today's race. Van der Sande only half a second in front of his teammate Brian Carey, so there's plenty of action up and down through the field. But it looks like we're in for a slobber knocker at the front. 7/10 the gap now. Blocker didn't even use the push to pass last time around now, Andrew. He is well and truly in the draft.
He is right where he needs to be. Once you get past about 0.8 of a second there, then you really get into a better pocket of air that really allows you to draft up on the car in front of you. So if he's able to maintain this sort of gap to Brandon Traino, he won't even need to use any more of his push to passes to stay with Traino for the remainder of this stint. And that's exactly what Adam Blocker needs. You don't, as a competitor, you don't know exactly how many push to passes that your competitors have left. You only know how many you have. So I'm sure that Adam probably doesn't think that Traino's used all but 2 at this point, but we do know that Adam really strategizes these races well, so it wouldn't surprise me that he probably thinks that he has a little bit of an advantage over Traino right now.
I don't think there's many that really hold as much in reserve in terms of push to passes as the likes of Adam Blocker do. On the button once more as they climb up the hill under the NTT bridge to the start line as well. Now gap 0.6 of a second. Traino is ducking and weaving, trying to break the drop for all that he's worth, but the gap is now down to 1/4 of a second. Surely the move is not too far away.
Adam Blocker is right where he needs to be. He's on the back of Brandon Traino. If he gets a good run through turn 3 here, we should see a move down into turn 5 from Adam Blocker. He's back on the push to pass, Arjuna.
Traino decides to defend it though. He's only got 1 usage of the button left after this lap, with plenty of racing still to go. Side by side and down the hill. Traino late on the brakes. Blocker tries to set up the up and under, but at least for now, the king of the bricks holds on.
Really nice defense there from Brandon Traino. He did exactly what he needed to do to keep Blocker behind him. Traino has 1 push to pass left, and I know that it must be a helpless feeling for him, knowing how fast that he just saw Adam Blocker come up on him. It looks like, if anything, Blocker might be a little bit more trimmed out than Traino is. So that's probably also helping Blocker stay in this draft, but it's not helping him through this carousel corner as we see Blocker drifting back just a little bit, now back out to 0.6 of a second, just through that 1 corner alone there, Arjuna.
I think Blocker actually lost a bit of momentum coming under the bridge after turn 5 and got a little bit loose. Looks to the inside of Traino that time around. Now just 3 push to pass difference between the two of them. This time around should be 7 laps to go in what has been a fascinating season opener to kick off 2022 Season 1 in this iRacing official IndyCar Open Championship. Up the hill once more, Blocker not on the button this time around. Battle going on behind as well as Brian Carey slipped down the inside of Canada corner to pass Alexander Van der Sat. Steals the final podium position away from the new power slide recruit. Leaders through turn 1 this time around. Blocker needs to set up the run once more through turn 3.
Mirror image of last time. Blocker right on the back of Brandon Traino. Neither driver this time going to the push to pass, which is interesting to see. It looks like Blocker is trying to save it for just another run potentially, but it does look like he's got maybe enough to try it down the inside. He chucks it down the inside. Nice move there from Adam Blocker. Brandon Traino trying to fight back. Blocker didn't get the best run coming out of the corner into turn 6. Blocker on the inside in the preferred line. Traino hanging tough. Side by side into turn 7, Traino with the preferred position, and he defends. What action we are seeing here, Arjuna.
Incredible. Blocker sent it. Daniel Ricciardo would be proud of that send, but Brandon Traino was having none of it. Didn't get the up and under, but managed to get the run after Blocker stumbled out of the blocks of turn 5, and Brandon Traino holds on to the lead. Those cars fighting so hard. They lost 2 seconds on this lap as compared to their best lap time, but it's not going to matter because net 3rd position, Brian Carey, is 21 seconds down the road. Here comes to the outside Adam Blocker. Squeeze going on there. Was there contact between Traino and Blocker?
The iRacing gods may have just seen how good the battle was between these two and said, we are going to let these two get away with some very close action there. It does look like there might be some slight damage to the front wing of Adam Blocker there as they got very close through Canada corner, but if there is any damage, it is very slight, and it doesn't look like it has impeded Adam Blocker too much at this point because he is still right on the back of Brandon Traino, and we are setting ourselves up for even further action. Arjuna.
There is definite damage to the right side of Adam Blocker's front wing, but Brandon Traino has just burned through his final push to pass of the race. He is going to have to survive the next 6 laps, the next 24 miles without any additional help. It will be all down to Brandon Traino, a 3-time iRacing Indy 500 winner. Blocker just a little bit too far behind once more as they come down the hill. The iRacing gods smiled on both of them. That could have been a much bigger incident. Now the question is, how significant is that damage going to be on the front of Adam Blocker's wing? He's able to run in the dirty air of Brandon Traino pretty easily, at least for now.
I will say one thing, Arjuna, is these black sidewall tires, they have a little bit more of a rearward bias than the red sidewalls do. You get a little bit looser on these black tires compared to the red tires. So that front wing damage might actually not hurt Adam all that much, because it could potentially allow the balance to shift forward just a little bit, and it could just rebalance the tires enough, and as he is right on the back of Brandon Traino through Canada corner.
Well, iRacing gods have really smiled on this battle, Andrew, because the damage that Adam Blocker at least looks like he was nursing has decided to disappear. As is Brandon Traino right now. That is not a good sign. That is not a good sign. You talk about engine failures in the real world, brake failures. We don't necessarily have those. We have technical failures, and Brandon Traino's internet is not playing nice with him right now.
No, and it's a very challenging situation for Adam Blocker because Brandon is weaving back and forth. And Brandon, to be fair to him, he probably doesn't even know that he's blinking right now, because likely with connection issues like that, he is seeing it perfectly fine on his side. But with Traino weaving from side to side on the straightaway, it's putting Adam in a really challenging position, not only to try and follow and draft, but also to execute a pass safely, as we see another move coming into turn 5.
Parks it on the apex as Brandon Traino trying to get the cut back. Adam Blocker, nothing he can do when Traino defends like that. He's still got 4 of the 60 horsepower spurts to use, and I think with 5 laps to go, he is surely saving them for the final 4 laps of the race. Absolutely.
He shot his shot with his other uses earlier when they got side by side through those corners there, and now he is absolutely just saving them. He probably thinks that Traino saved some of his as well, so he's purposely saving them. As we see a battle for 6th here, Adam Crane on Riley Thompson.
Oh, but deep.
Crane sends it really deep into the corner, and Thompson with the nice over-under up into turn 6. It looked like it was Adam Crane's for the taking, but Thompson with the nice over-under move maintains that position. But those red tires on Thompson's car are really starting to complain here, and Adam Crane is putting him under a lot of pressure with a Rashad Craig, who we know has that downforce that is able to take care of his tires so well. He is all over the back of these two as well.
3 cars separated by inches. Crane really getting feisty now. These two, Thompson and Crane, have been embroiled in a battle right from the off. While these two are fighting, so are your race leaders. Down the hill once more, 4 laps to go. Surely this is when Adam Blocker gets the move on. 4 usages of the push to pass left, 4 laps to go out of turn 3. No move forthcoming just yet in terms of the push to pass. We'll wait and see if it will be a late lunge. Adam Blocker does seem to have just a little bit more top-end speed. Pops himself to the outside line. Traino will go deep once more to try and cover him off. This time, though, Adam Blocker still trying to get the up and under. Nothing doing. Incredible stuff. Meanwhile, battle for 6, Riley Thompson holds on at least for now.
It's so close between these 3, Arjuna. Riley Thompson is doing everything he can to make those red tires last as long as they can. But those black tires of Adam Crane are really starting to come into their own. But Rashad Craig, remember, with that downforce, he's able to use all he could to make this the short stint, and the high downforce is really coming into its own, and he is making the red tires work really well as well. So really good stuff. Here comes Adam Crane. Oh, Thompson loses it under braking. He loses both spots, and Adam Crane is now released. Rashad Craig right along behind him.
Yep, those red tires the Thompson's decided to stay on since the start of the race. He's finally paying the piper, paying the price. Drops down to 8th. He's lost 2 positions. In effect, lost the 2 positions. That is where he started. The gap has opened up. between Blocker and Traino. Not sure exactly why. Adam Blocker is coming to pit lane.
Oh my word, was there a fuel miscalculation from Adam Blocker? It looks like that could be the only reason that he is coming to pit road here, Arjuna. There's no other explanation other than that he miscalculated the fuel, underfueled his car, and this is it for Adam Blocker's hopes of winning the race. Now he's just got to be hoping to be lucky to finish second.
No, I don't even think he's going to get that. I think at best he's looking at a fifth, because Brian Carey is sprinting down past him already. So is Van der Sant. So will Robert Malechka. Adam Blocker should emerge in fifth position as he drops from the jacks and has switched back to the red mark tire. He'll be about 3 seconds clear of Crane and Rashad Craig, who are duking out between the two of them as they come down in towards turn number 1. Craig, full of confidence, sends it around the outside line. We've seen incidents there before in so many different series, but Craig holds on. Crane trying to hold on it by himself, but around the outside, Craig up to 6th.
What a power move from Rashad Craig, and that all comes down to that extra downforce that we know by now that he's carrying. He sent it around the outside of Adam Crane there, and he made it stick. What a move from Rashad Craig. Excellent, excellent driving.
I think Crane has also burned through all of his push-to-pass, and maybe also explains why it was difficult for him to mount a fight back coming out of turn number 3. Craig still has one in reserve. We'll see if he's able to stretch the advantage from here. But the reality is, the big talking point heading out of America's National Park of Speed is unfortunately not going to be Brandon Traino's really strong pace and a really strong return to these Monday night IndyCar Open races. Instead, it is really going to be, Andrew, the miscalculation from a 4-time Lionheart champion, a 10-time iRacing IndyCar Open champion, from one of the best in all of the iRacing IndyCar community. We don't see that from Adam Blocker very often.
I'm astounded, to be honest, Arjuna. I haven't seen Blocker miscalculate a fuel load in a very, very long time. And you know that he's got to be just steaming now. He put on the red sidewall tires for a reason. He could have easily gone into the pits and simply topped up on fuel and told around to the end. And he may have even gotten out in front of Brian Carey or in the middle of Carey, Van der Sant, and Malechka. But he wanted those fast laps now because he is seeing some red here, I think. And he is going for the fastest lap of the race just to prove just how fast he could have gone if he had made that mistake.
It promotes Brian Carey up to 2nd. It promotes Alexander Van der Sant back up to 3rd as Van der Sant gets a little bit loose and a little bit sideways and wide coming down through turn 5. Promotes Robert Malechka as well up into 4th position. Blocker is about 6 and a bit seconds back from 4th. So with 2 to go, about 1.5 this time. Looking like it's going to be a bit too far behind for Adam Blocker to close that gap up. Currently, it's Adriano Pinheiro that has the fastest lap of the race, a 1:43.745. I would not be shocked if this time around, Adam Blocker already burning through 2 of his push-to-passes. Now burns through the 3rd of the push-to-passes he had remaining left. Would not be shocked if we see a fast lap incoming from the Lionheart King as white flag in the air. Brandon Traino comfortably at the front of this field, and I think it's fair to say Brandon Traino is much more of an oval specialist than he is a road specialist. 3-time iRacing Indy 500 champion, but to win one of these championships, Andrew, it takes that composure, the ability to go fast on a road course, and the ovals as well. And we know Brandon has that. He is one of the few drivers, in fact he might be the only driver, to have won this championship in the IR05, the DW12, and the IR18. It's great to see him back on track here to kick things off in 2022.
Absolutely. Brandon Traino, you say he's more known for his oval racing, but he is definitely no slouch on the road courses. As we saw that brilliant defense against Adam Blocker with about 7 to go proves he knows how to drive a car on both oval and road. As we, by the way, Adam Blocker did go fastest with just a 1:42.7 there, so he only got fastest lap by almost a full second. I think he might have been proving a point there, Arjuna.
Yes. Oh, no, definitely. I think that's the the red mist that you were talking about, the frustration boiling over, but gives you the indication as well that pure outright pace is not everything. It takes the complete package to win a race like this. Multiple pit stops, so many different options, availabilities on strategies, both when it comes to tires and the fuel as well. But the king of the bricks put it on pole and led decisively from there. Brandon Traino wins at America's National Park of Speed to kick off 2022 Season 1 in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. And we've got a long wait to see second place across the line.
Great drive from Brandon Traino. He did an excellent job here today. It would have been amazing to see what him and Blocker could have done through that race and seen what the last few laps could have been, but it really was a great drive, and we saw just how spicy that battle could have been with some of the racing that they did in that third stint before Adam pitted. Brian Carey does come home in second, Van de Sant third, Malechka fourth, and Adam Blocker in fifth place for Powerslide Motorsports 2 through 5, but I know that Adam Blocker in particular will be disappointed with that one.
And we won't even get the chance to talk to Blocker to find out exactly what happened there in terms of the pit strategy, but we'll see if we can get some news from him after things are said and done. As the rest of the field comes across the line, Brandon Traino burns the house down. It's almost like he's got some experience of doing these donuts. Still plenty of cars yet to come across the line, so we'll get the race results to you in just a couple of moments' time. But for Powerslide Motorsports, there are two new boys, Van der Sant and Malechka III. I think we've seen, especially in the Lionheart Speedway Series, Andrew, that both of those drivers are aces when it comes to the road, the ovals. Van der Sant has impressed in the last 6 months on the road courses as well, but Malechka is still the big question mark there. For him and for Van der Sant to be right on the pace of someone like Brian Carey with so much experience in this IndyCar across of the road courses as well speaks pretty well to the hopes for Powerslide in this championship in the next 11 weeks.
Absolutely, Arjuna. It was the case of these two Powerslide rookies, at least. They're not rookies to the IndyCar by any means, but they really showed that they have the potential to really factor into this championship. We know that sometimes Adam can miss weeks here due to real-world commitments. Hopefully he doesn't have too many of those over the course of our 12-week season, it being the off-season in IndyCar, but when you get the likes of Brandon Traino and Adam Blocker, who don't necessarily come out every week, you look to guys like Alexander Van de Sant, Robert Malechka, and Brian Carey, the types of drivers who can go out there and put in a solid drive every week in, week out, no matter the type of tracks. It should be a fascinating fight to the finish for this championship.
Well, let's take a look then at our race results. After 32 laps here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, it is Brandon Traino victorious, 24 seconds clear of the rest of the pack. But the question will have been, how much longer could Traino have held off from the charging Adam Blocker, who miscalculated, we think, on the field? Brian Carey will be delighted with second place here today, but not too far in front of his Powerslide teammates Alexander Van der Sant and Robert Malechka III. Adam Blocker started up in the field in third, ends up in fifth after that late race pit stop. Rashad Craig got around Adam Crane in the closing stages to work his way up to 6, plus 9 from where he qualified, so it really shows that Craig is a strong performer when it comes to race pace. Crane was feeling uncomfortable before the race, he told me, but 7th place, not a bad return to Mondays for Crane. Riley Thompson tried to make the Reds work all race long, didn't work in his favor. He ends up down in 8th with Christian Macarelli and Adriano Pinheiro through the top 10. Jesper Orman then for the Three Crowns Racing finishes in 11th after some contact with Andrew Wood. Andrew Marquez separates Orman from Wood, while Daniel Manzano and Robin Glennox through the top 15. Joe Branch, Jack Mara, David Porcelli all one lap down from your race leader, while Matt Houston did pursue, or at least persevered, to come across the line in 19th. AJ Musselman, the most recent of the retirements, he finishes down in 20th after a mistake, just adapting to the changing nature of the track. Lewis Tolan really did show some great pace. Hopefully we'll see plenty more of him in the next 11 weeks. Fabio Ciambala, Joao de Gregorio, Mitchell Welker, and Adam Frazier complete the 25 cars fastest lap of the race. It was a 1:42.785. Incredible. 1 full second quicker than anyone else in this field, and that's only because Adriano Pinheiro was the only other car that was able to dip below the 1 minute 44s, a 1:43 for Adriano Pinheiro.
And I will say a big shout out to Adriano, who had a great recovery drive from that lap 1 contact to finish in the top 10. He was looking after that first lap to be potentially lucky to be in the top 15, and he showed great pace throughout this race to get back into the fight there.
Well, I believe we are now joined down in victory lane by the King of the Bricks, Brandon Traino. Brandon, I know you were saying that you didn't necessarily know how your performance on the road courses was going to be, but well, that was a pretty good performance there. Pole and victory, holding off someone like Adam Blocker.
Yeah, I'm a little out of breath, a little sweaty. That was a hell of a battle. I respect him a lot, and we braked deep into turn 5 on 25 and both locked up. And at that point, I was like, well, if he crosses me back over, he crosses me back over, and hope for the next opportunity. But we both locked up, and 26, I believe, he got to my inside into 5, and I actually remember watching one of my teammates from Apex stick it to the outside into 6, and he locked up again and ran a little bit wide, so I thought I was going to get pushed off the track, but luckily he didn't, and I went back around the outside and held him off. Do you know what happened to him? Because I don't. I was really looking forward to it because he still had 4 push passes, and I was a sitting duck, to be honest.
We had no clue. We're still trying to figure out. Our guess is fuel, but we'll wait and see. So that brings me nicely to my next question, because I was going to ask you about that push to pass golf between the two of you. You burned through your 10 button presses quite early, given how long was still left in the race. Were you getting updates from someone about how many push to passes Blocker still had in reserve?
Yeah, Jacob Oster was huge for strategy. Really kept me informed on his push to passes. I burned through him too fast, and I should have remembered that Blocker always keeps him in his pocket, and yeah, I was more focused on the fact that he didn't have he was lower on downforce, so he was really fast on the straightaways. Even though I could get out of the toe range, he'd catch right back up on the straights. So yeah, I burned through him probably too much in just anticipation that I can keep out of the toe range, and he'd catch right back up. So yeah, it's just not smart driving on my part, but live and learn.
And now, pretty good way to start off this this championship. You did win this time last year in this 2021 season 1, so now we're in 2022 season 1. We know that you're not going to necessarily be able to run the rest of the year once, you know, things kick back up in the NASCAR world where you do work. What's your hopes over the course of the season? This was a pretty good way to get things started.
Yeah, I'm really happy to come out away with the victory here. I've put in a lot of work to try to get better on the road courses. The VRS direct drive and pedals have helped a lot, to be honest. I'm able to push the car and just overall find the limit a little bit better. But yeah, with real world stuff, with pitting and things like that, I don't know if I'll make them all, but I'm definitely going to try to show up for the main ones. The ovals are usually pretty popular, so hopefully I can at least make a couple of those. Oh,
congratulations, Brandon. It was a really fun race to watch, and I can't wait to now see what the rest of the season holds in store for us.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Arjuna. And again, shout out to Apex Racing, the guys at FFG, and Jacob for being my crew chief for the week.
And confirmation from Adam Blocker, underfueled his car by almost a full gallon. So that's why we saw him having to dive down onto pit road with 3 laps left in this race. Now joined by a very happy Brian Carey, and Andrew Kinsella is standing by.
Well, Brian, it wasn't probably the result you thought you were going to get in the race, but it definitely turned out well for you. Take us through, first of all, the beginning, fighting with the teammates, just to start off with.
Yeah, I mean, that was our first race with Alex and Rob, and it was pretty good. I mean, we were just talking about how the fact that, especially in our second stint, we were like 10th for 10th there, and it was pretty much like the first stint. So Alex was wondering if he was holding me up in that first stint. He was not. We were just in a little bit of a train there, and it was actually pretty smooth. I could see we were starting to pull the gap to the spots behind us. So really that first stint really set the tone there. We got the reds off onto the blacks, which we preferred, and from there we just kept pumping at the laps.
And now, at what point did you realize, hey, I've actually got a shot at not just a podium here, but second place?
Unfortunately, when I heard the leader was in the pit, I'm like, uh-oh, something happened up front. And unfortunately, it was Adam. And he'll let you know, I think he had a little bit of a fuel issue there, which kind of sucks because it's hard to, battle that hard and then have to give it up for something like that. But really, it was just at that point, I was like, oh, okay. I guess that's second place, but really second, third at that point. I mean, I'm on the same spot of the track, so it really had nothing to do with me.
And it didn't look like you were under too much pressure at the end, but at the same time, there's been times this year where you've made mistakes. In this case, you were completely mistake-free for the entire race. So just tell us what it was like in those final few laps as you were trying to close the deal on second place here.
Actually, I mean, I do really well on the Open Series for some reason. I mean, you're familiar with the leagues. I do Lionheart, I do the Elite Series, and for some reason, I tend to step in it so hard in those ones. I gotta work on my mental game for that. But here, I mean, honestly, I felt cool. It was actually really helpful to have Rob and Alex really close to me, doing basically the same lap times, because it really helped me keep focus, really helped me hit my marks. And I think that's one thing I'm trying to work on, is that focus, is to try to keep up with that.
Absolutely. Well, you are the top place Powerslide Motorsports driver here today, Brian. An excellent drive, excellent second place finish. Thanks for joining us here.
Awesome. Cheers, buddy.
So that was Brian Carey, now joined by his teammate Alexander Van der Zandt, who had a really impressive debut showing in this IndyCar Open Championship for his new team, Powerslide Motorsports. Alex, first off, congratulations on what was a pretty great qualifying lap. To qualify in front of Adam Blocker is no mean feat. From there, start didn't necessarily go the way that you would have wanted, but that's what happens here at Road America. But from there, some really great driving to get onto the podium when all things were said and done.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that. I just kept it clean and had decent pace. Brian got me at the end there, but he was just a bit faster, so didn't want to fight him too hard. Out-qualifying Adam was, definitely an achievement. I've done it one other time and then probably been to turn one, so this one a bit better than that. But 4K I rating as well this race, so just really solid start to the season, and makes me really excited for the rest of season one.
And it's not your first official race as part of Powerslide Motorsports. That was the superb drive from the tail end of the field in the Lionheart IndyCar season finale to a podium finish there. What's the rest of the year? Obviously not much time left to go, but then for 2022 as well, what's the next 12 months hold for you in store? Because we know you like to keep busy, whether it be fixed racing, whether it be open setup racing. What are your hopes now that you've joined Powerslide Motorsports?
I just need to step it up a level. Main goal is to improve my road skills a bit. I'm solid, but there's just, you saw how Brandon and Adam drove away from us. So I want to get closer to them by the end of this season, and especially by the end of the year. Got a couple fixed championships finishing up now, so gonna try and focus on those and see if I can bring that home and get better and learn as much as I can as quickly as possible.
And now I'm going to ask you a question, because I'm your teammate. I need to figure this stuff out. Where do you feel more comfortable? We've seen you become increasingly competitive on these road courses. I mean, the last time we covered official Open Championship stuff, you were in the top 5 in the championship. Where do you feel more comfortable, though? We've seen some standout performances on the ovals. Where's your road pace in comparison for you?
I think right now I'm definitely more comfortable on ovals, a bit stronger. Of course, they're always closer. The field's always closer, so it's easier to make stuff happen. Main thing is just getting more comfortable attacking and then racing side by side and wheel to wheel with somebody on a road course. Because right now I just don't quite have enough confidence to really push hard. I think the stuff I'm doing in supercars is helping with that. And
Well, don't worry. If there's anyone who wants to make you feel comfortable with side-by-side, Adam Blocker's pretty good. He's bullied me many a time. Congratulations on the podium, Alex, and looking forward to seeing you in 7 days' time from Michigan.
Thanks, fellas.
So what a season opener it was, Andrew, and really, I am now just getting excited with what we've got in store. Here's confirmation of the schedule, and of course, there's racing happening all week. So jump onto iRacing.com, find a time slot, compete with some of these guys. But Monday night is where it's at. This is where the big guns come out to play, and in 7 days' time, it will be fast and frenetic, I think that's fair to say, at Michigan.
The action is going to be fast, frenetic, and furious, I might add to that as well. I think that we're going to probably see a few tempers flaring, given how I've seen the racing go at Michigan in the past. It is going to be an exciting race to watch no matter what happens. 100 laps, can't wait. And then even looking beyond Michigan, Spa, Iowa, Mid-Ohio, the next few weeks here are going to be absolutely fantastic.
It is going to be incredible, and you can join us here on RaceSpotTV for all of it. It's been so good to be back on a Monday night, to have IndyCar back in our lives, and to have you join us wherever you are around the world. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye from America's National Park of Speed. Just a reminder, you can stay up to date with all things RaceSpotTV, with all things sim racing across of social media. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube by hitting that red button and hit the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. Plenty of things coming, even though 2021 is winding down to a close. We'll see you then in 7 days' time from the Michigan International Speedway for our first oval race of the season. But on behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for Dougie Beard producing our camera packs, for our partners at ATVO providing our live timing and our graphic software, my name is Arjuna Kenkipati, delighted to have been joined by Andrew Kinsella. We'll see you from the Michigan International Speedway.